The development context for Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties has that vibe of a major project trying to please two audiences at once. Those who just wanted a polished Kiwami version of 3, and those who wanted something truly new to justify returning to this chapter. My feeling is that they are betting heavily on this combination of a remake and a side story, but they are still in damage control mode regarding some technical rough edges. To me, the demo sends a very clear message. This is still a work in progress, and they know the public noticed. The studio itself acknowledged feedback regarding technical issues and certain visual expressions, stressing that the demo was created during development and doesn't reflect the final quality level. The case of the lighting near the Kubochi River is almost symbolic, as it's the kind of detail that completely changes the atmosphere of Okinawa, and that contrast Yakuza 3 always had between peaceful life and big trouble incoming. They cited this specific point as an example of something that didn't turn out as intended due to bugs and quality adjustments that didn't make it into the demo. At the same time, I liked the "okay, we hear you" stance, and the commitment to a launch day fix via patch 1.11, as it shows there is at least a public, dated plan. You can also read between the lines that the team wanted to deliver a more polished demo but chose to put the playable slice out there anyway, perhaps because their confidence in the overall package and the content's appeal is high enough to weather the discussion. From what has been released, what draws my attention most on the Kiwami 3 side is the attempt to modernize without losing character, focusing mainly on expressiveness and new scenes, such as the description of a brand new moment involving Rikiya and Kiryu. Personally, I love it when a developer does this carefully. It's not rewriting the story, but filling gaps and providing emotional context where the original game was drier due to the limitations of the era. Meanwhile, Dark Ties gives off the energy of, it's not just an extra, it's a thesis. Taking mine, giving him the spotlight, and exploring a more internal side with monologues and a psychological approach is a bold and intentional choice. Looking at what's been shown, it seems the developer wants him to have his own gameplay identity too, with shoot, boxing, combat, and a more brutal mode when the gauge fills up, reinforcing the character's duality. The project seems ambitious and well thought out in its dual experience package, but the development context is marked by a demo that became both a showcase and a public to-do list. If patch 1.11 truly nails those quality and lighting issues they highlighted, this release could become a classic case of strong content carrying the weight while the polish arrives on day one to soothe the more skeptical fans. What excites me most about the story, based on the demo and what the developer has shown, is the feeling that Kiwami 3 wants to turn Okinawa into a stormy calm, rather than just a pretty backdrop before the chaos. Kiryu seems less like a legend here, and more like a makeshift father trying to keep a home standing, which is the kind of drama I easily buy into when the series hits the right tone. In the playable slice, the conflict with the Ryudo family appears very direct. There's real pressure on the orphanage land, which gives immediate weight to why Kiryu is going back to hitting people without it feeling like a mere franchise obligation. I like it because the threat is grounded, almost petty, and for that very reason, it feels plausible enough to destabilize that simple life. The moment that left me with the impression of, okay, they are tweaking the narrative with intent, was the new scene involving Rikiya, which changes his perception of Kiryu after seeing him risk everything alone to save a figure from the commercial district. It's not just fan service. It's a smart, emotional shortcut to accelerate respect and loyalty without needing hours of expository dialogue. The Life at Morning Glory part also seems more integrated into the heart of the story, described as a sequence of bonds with activities and conversations that increase trust and unlock events for each child. I get the feeling that Kiwami 3 is trying to make you care before crushing you with the larger conspiracy, and to me, that's the right way to tell the story of Yakuza 3. On the other hand, Dark Ties takes a very interesting turn because the story isn't just the villain again, but the promise of looking at Mine as a protagonist at the exact point where he is searching for meaning in real bonds. The official website paints this beginning with him betrayed in the corporate world, ending up drunk in Kamurocho, witnessing a brutal fight, and becoming obsessed with the idea of a bond that goes beyond money. What grabs me here is that he seeks out Kanda and joins as a sworn brother and right-hand man, making money for the family until the clan notices and the internal crisis begins to close in. This escalation seems perfect for a character like Mine. He doesn't join for honor, he joins trying to prove an emotional thesis. The fact that the story ends this segment with a sudden invitation from Daigo is a hook that feels like a tragedy foretold. And there's a detail that, for me, changes everything in how this story is told. The preview mentions that it's rare for the series to show thoughts through raw internal monologue, and that Mine is cold enough to treat Daigo's family talk as empty rhetoric. If they maintain this throughout the whole game, I think Dark Ties could become the missing piece to make Mine work not just as a cool antagonist, but as someone you understand and even disagree with angrily because you've seen his internal reasoning. The gameplay gives me the feeling that the developer wanted to fix the pacing of 3 without losing the weight of the blows. And the demo already makes it clear that the focus is on making combat more varied and satisfying to control on the fly. I came away with that good feeling of a street fight that starts out of nowhere, and before you know it, you're switching styles, weapons, and heat actions without having to overthink. In Kiwami 3, the immediate standout is being able to fluidly switch between Dragon of Dojima, Kiwami style, and Ryukyu style as this changes the tempo of the fights. Dragon is still the straight-to-the-point brawler, and the official description sells it as an evolution with more techniques and heat actions, so the expectation is for it to be Kiryu's most complete kit. Ryukyu style, for me, is the coolest idea in this package because it embraces Okinawa mechanically. Weapons become part of the moveset, with buttons mapping different strikes and automatic swapping depending on the command. The weapon list they released, Tinbei, Sai, Tonfa, Nunchaku, Eiku, and others, gives you that taste of a style you'll actually want to master, rather than something you just use occasionally as a gimmick. I also liked how the game tries to reward you for filling the meter and entering party mode, because Dragon Boost and Dragon Finisher seem designed to be those moments of catharsis after managing the fight. From what's been disclosed, the boost also changes the Ryukyu style to unlock the potential of weapons, like throwing Sai as projectiles and finishing with a Dragon Finisher, so one can imagine some very cinematic power spikes. One thing I didn't expect to enjoy as much, just looking at it on the surface, is how the side systems seem to weave the experience together with a calmer side involving mini-games and trust daddy rank, and that is pure gameplay, not just cutscenes. Even though I'm the type who goes straight for the combat, I like it when the series makes you slow down because it provides contrast and makes the next fight feel more necessary. Dark Ties is where I felt the biggest shift in combat texture. Mine is presented with a faster, more technical shoot-boxing style and mobility that seems more agile than Kiryu's standard. The promotional material talks about exploiting gaps in defense, landing refined combos, and even moving through the air to apply pressure in a more unpredictable way, so it seems like a character built for those who enjoy an aggressive rhythm. Graphically, my impression of the demo is that there are moments where it looks like a premium remake, and others where it feels like a development build with visual patches still showing. I don't think it's ugly overall, but the game is clearly being judged, rightly so, on lighting and consistency, as that totally changes the vibe of Okinawa and Kamurocho. What pulled me out of the immersion most was precisely this inconsistency. There are scenes where skin, clothes, and the environment fit well, and then you enter an area where the light feels wrong, flattening volume and making the scenery look artificial. The fact that the studio chose to cite a specific place by name, the Kubochi River area in downtown Ryukyu, shows that this spot became a symbol of the problem. The silver lining is that RGG basically admitted, yes, this isn't the intended visual expression, saying it's a bug and that the quality adjustments planned for launch weren't applied to the demo. This makes me feel more at ease because it's very different from when a company pretends everything is fine and that we just didn't understand the art direction. Another thing I respect is the honesty in saying the demo was created during the development of the final product. So there are areas where the presentation doesn't meet the final version standards and unintentional expressions remain due to unresolved issues. In other words, what we are seeing is a snapshot of a process, not the final painting. And that's where the point that changes the tone of the conversation comes in. They've already confirmed this will be addressed in patch 1.11 on launch day with bug fixes and quality improvements. They even apologize for not being able to deliver the demo and the product in a fully polished state, which to me is a good way to lower the temperature and adjust expectations. Still, I think it's a bit risky to leave the fixes for day one when it comes to lighting, because lighting isn't just a technical detail, it's the game's cinematography. If Kiwami 3 wants to sell that feeling of heat, late afternoon, lit streets, and the Okinawa atmosphere, these kinds of adjustments determine whether you feel the place or just walk across a map. Overall, I left the demo with a sense of cautious optimism. The foundation is strong and you can see the visual ambition, but the version we played still has points that hold back the next-gen feel due to light and presentation. If patch 1.1 truly delivers what they promised, and they say there are many improvements beyond what they mentioned, I think the conversation will quickly shift from "where's the polish" to "okay, now this feels like a real Kiwami."
Congratulations on your release.
In the demo, the performance left me with that mixed feeling of it's playable and enjoyable, but at the same time, this isn't at the launch-ready point yet. Most importantly, RGG itself treated the matter as part of technical issues and unresolved questions that became apparent precisely because the demo was made during development. What I felt while playing is that when the game is stable, it delivers the flow the series needs. The camera keeps up with the fight, animations respond quickly, and the city doesn't fight against you. However, in moments where something goes off, whether due to a bug or an adjustment that hasn't been implemented yet, you notice it immediately because Yakuza is very hands-on. Any micro stutter or instability breaks the impact of the hits and the presentation. I also think there's a side effect here. Many people are calling it graphics, but part of what often bothers the eye is performance and frame pacing consistency, not just textures or models. Since they mentioned technical issues and quality enhancements in the same breath, it suggests the fix package isn't just cosmetic. The part that makes me most confident is that they've already tied fixes and improvements to the final version via patch 1.11 on launch day, including bug fixes and quality improvements. They further reinforce that beyond what they've cited publicly, there are additional improvements in many aspects, which is usually the language of someone who is going to tweak multiple fronts, optimization, render adjustments, and environmental bugs. Even so, I remain a bit wary for a very simple and personal reason. A demo is where I feel the performance, not where I believe the promise. So I'm in that spot of wanting to see the final version running with the patch applied before declaring it smooth. As they themselves admit, they wanted to deliver the demo in a fully polished state and couldn't. If I had to summarize my feeling just as a player of the demo, I'd say the base is there, but performance seems to depend on how much patch 1.11 actually closes the loose ends that were visible now. And since they warn that distribution timing may vary by platform, I'd keep an eye on that too, because day one doesn't always mean the same time everywhere in practice. Based on the demo, I'd say it's worth buying at launch, especially if you're the type who wants to play on day one, even while accepting the risk of an under construction start. If you're more demanding regarding polish, I'd wait at least for the first post-patch reviews and community feedback. RGG itself recognized that the demo has technical and visual presentation issues that don't represent the final experience, so there's a big asterisk over what we played. The point that weighs most in my decision to buy is that the main criticisms reflected in the official discourse revolve around quality and lighting inconsistencies, and that is exactly the kind of thing that affects first impressions and immersion. They promised patch 1.11 at launch to correct lighting and other quality concerns, specifically citing the Kubochi River area in downtown Ryukyu as an example. On the other hand, I totally understand those who will buy at launch for the package itself. It's not just a remake, it's a remake plus an extra story focused on mine, and that's a huge draw for anyone who has always wanted to see this character better explored. From what's been released, the idea is that Dark Ties isn't just a short extra, but a perspective with its own identity, giving it that definitive edition feel for Yakuza 3. The game is recommended if you enjoy street brawling with different styles and that mix of serious drama with lighter activities. Kiwami 3 seems to aim exactly for that, with fluid style switching and a strong focus on weapons in Ryukyu style. If you like experimenting with systems and movesets, Dark Ties also seems designed to give you a second flavor of combat with mine, featuring state mechanics like the brutality mode that change how you play. Now, if you're the type who can't stand launch games with the promise of a patch, I think it's totally valid to wait, as even the studio admits the demo was made during development and ended up with unintentional expressions due to unresolved issues. Even with patch 1.11 promising to fix this and bring many other improvements, they also mention that distribution may vary by platform, so not everyone might receive everything at the same time. Personally, I think I'll buy at launch because I want to follow this live start testing. Patch 1.11 and seeing the final version prove itself in practice. If I were in a phase with a heavy backlog and zero patience for any instability, I'd wait a week or two, because then you get the game once the day one heat has passed and with more concrete feedback on its final state.
Training にもならない。